Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most sweeping, complex, and honestly, defining historical timelines in modern India. We're looking at the centuries-long history of the Ayodhya Ram Mandir. Spanning from ancient mythological eras all the way to our modern constitutional republic, this is a massive story. It's about faith, political upheaval, deep communal divides, and ultimately, a landmark legal resolution. We're going to examine this epic timeline objectively, relying strictly on the historical and legal accounts that shape the narrative to map out exactly how we got to where we are today.
So, here's our roadmap for today. 1. Ancient origins to the Mughal era. 2. The 1949 turning point. 3. Political escalation and the Rath Yatra. 4. The 1992 demolition. 5. ASI findings and verdicts. And finally, 6. The 2024 Pran Pratishtha. Section 1. Ancient origins to the Mughal era. Myth to history. Okay, let's dive right into this first chapter, where mythology and ancient history really begin to intertwine. Think about how deep these roots actually go. The narrative begins way back in antiquity. According to belief, after Lord Ram's departure, his son Kush constructed several temples in Ayodhya, and that includes one right at his birthplace. Over the centuries, these temples fell into disrepair until they were reportedly renovated around 57 BC by King Vikramaditya of Ujjain. Now fast forward to the 16th century, because this is where the historical dispute really builds. In 1528 to 1529, during the reign of the Mughal Emperor Babur, his general Mir Baqi demolished existing structures and built a mosque. This became known as the Babri Masjid, and it restricted Hindu access. Fast forward again almost 190 years to 1717, and Raja Jaisa II of Omar stepped in and constructed a chabutra, basically a raised platform just outside the mosque in the courtyard where an idol of Ram Lalla was placed for worship.
So this arrangement, Muslims praying inside the mosque and Hindus praying outside on the chabutra, it actually went on for years. But tensions inevitably rose, right? Because Hindus continued to claim the entire site as Ram's birthplace. And why does this early friction matter? Well, because it set a major precedent for state intervention. Clashes started happening, which prompted the British colonial government to intervene in 1859. Their solution? They literally erected a physical fence to separate the two communities, just trying to maintain public order. And that uneasy status quo persisted all the way until India's independence.
Section 2. The 1949 turning point, face and administration clash. The post-independence era marked a massive, irreversible escalation in this dispute. The absolute catalyst for the modern legal battle hit on the morning of December 23, 1949, just 2 years after independence. Idols of Lord Ram mysteriously appeared inside the main mosque structure, right under the central dome. Bells and conchas were sounded by the Hindu community, which drew massive crowds. But simultaneously, crowds from the Muslim community gathered in protest. The situation was completely explosive. Up in Delhi, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru ordered the immediate removal of those idols to restore the status quo. To prevent immediate communal violence, the gates of the structure were ultimately locked. Now, here's where it gets really interesting: how the local administration handled Delhi's orders. District Magistrate K.K. Nair wrote back to the Prime Minister's office, essentially pushing back hard against Nehru's directive. Nair stated that removing the idols was impossible without sparking a massive riot. He pointed out the priests' firm belief that moving the idols without proper rituals would be a serious sin. So Nair offered 2 suggestions: install a grill gate so people could only view from the outside, and hand the whole matter over to the courts. Nair actually offered his resignation over this, which was refused, but his suggestions were adopted. The idols stayed put, and the decades-long legal battle officially began. What's truly fascinating here is how the legal battle crystallized and basically froze this site. On the left side here, you have the Hindu side, where the Nirmohi Akhara filed a case asserting the site was Ram's birthplace from the very beginning, demanding full control so they could build a temple. On the right, the Muslim side. The Sunni Waqf Board filed a counterclaim, asserting the site's historical status as a mosque and demanding their full control be restored. These opposing, completely irreconcilable claims locked the site in judicial limbo for the next quarter century. Section 3. Political escalation and the 1990 Rath Yatra. Let's transition into the 1980s and 90s, because this is when a localized, slow-moving property dispute transformed into a nationwide political earthquake. The political landscape shifted incredibly fast. In 1984, the Vishva Hindu Parishad, or VHP, convened a Dharma Sansad, a religious parliament, and they publicly vowed to build the Ram Temple, calling for bricks to be sent from all over the country. Then, in 1986, seeking to win over Hindu voters, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's government facilitated the opening of the temple gates, allowing full access for Hindu worship. This was a huge deal. It was broadcast nationwide on Doordarshan. In direct response to this momentum, Muslim leaders formed the Babri Masjid Action Committee. Politically, the Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, capitalized on the temple movement. Just look at the numbers. Their parliamentary seats skyrocketed from just 2 in 1984 to 85 in 1989.
10,000 kilometers. Let that sink in. That was the planned distance of the Rath Yatra announced by BJP leader L.K. Advani in 1990. The journey was designed to travel from Somnath in Gujarat all the way across to Ayodhya, rallying immense nationwide support for the temple's construction along the route. It was a massive mobilization effort that completely electrified the country's political atmosphere. But the Yatra met fierce resistance in several states. Before starting, Advani had rhetorically challenged anyone to try and stop him. Well, when the Yatra reached Bihar in October 1990, Chief Minister Lalu Prasad Yadav ordered Advani's arrest. He famously retorted to the challenge by claiming he had the strength of both his mother's and a buffalo's milk. Advani's arrest had immediate national consequences. The BJP withdrew its support for the central government led by BP Singh, causing the whole government to collapse. Meanwhile, in Ayodhya, thousands of Kar Sevaks, these are religious volunteers, had gathered. Tensions boiled over, and under the orders of Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Mulayam Singh Yadav, police fired on the crowds to protect the mosque, tragically killing several Kar Sevaks and further inflaming the entire nation. Section 4. The 1992 demolition. State control collapses. This immense pressure cooker finally burst in the early 1990s. We're moving to one of the most volatile and dark chapters in this timeline. On December 6, 1992, administrative control just totally collapsed. This brilliantly illustrates how quickly things can spiral. Despite the BJP-led Uttar Pradesh government under Chief Minister Kalyan Singh giving an affidavit to the court literally assuring that no violence would occur and no damage would come to the structure, the situation spiraled completely out of hand. Over 200,000 Kar Sevaks had gathered in Ayodhya. Major political leaders were present right there on the ground. But despite their presence, the crowd surged past the barricades. By 5 p.m. that evening, all 3 domes of the 16th century Babri Masjid were completely demolished by the mob, and a small temporary temple was quickly erected in its place. The aftermath was catastrophic. The central government immediately dismissed the state government and imposed president's rule in Uttar Pradesh. The demolition triggered some of the absolute worst communal riots in India's modern history, resulting in thousands of tragic deaths. And the shockwaves extended internationally too, with retaliatory attacks against Hindu minorities and temples happening in neighboring Pakistan and Bangladesh. Section 5. ASI Findings and Court Verdicts, the Search for Evidence. We move now into the 2000s. Finding a legal and historical resolution became intensely urgent, particularly after further tragedies, like the horrific 2002 Godhra train burning, where 58 people, including returning Kar Sevaks, were killed, which sparked even more riots. To try and settle the core historical dispute once and for all, the court ordered the Archaeological Survey of India, or the ASI, to conduct a rigorous 6-month excavation at the site, and their findings were monumental for the case. The ASI report concluded that there were indeed significant remains of large Hindu temple structures, dating back to the 10th and 12th centuries, lying directly beneath the disputed site. This physical evidence became an absolute cornerstone for the judicial proceedings that followed. So taking all this evidence into account, the Allahabad High Court delivered its verdict in 2010. The court basically attempted a balancing act. It recognized the site as the birthplace of Ram, but decided to split the 2.77 acres of disputed land 3 ways. They gave one part to the Nirmohi Akhara, the central area under the dome, to the Hindu deity represented by the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, and the remaining third to the Sunni Waqf Board. But as you might guess, this compromise satisfied no one. All 3 parties completely rejected the verdict and immediately appealed to the Supreme Court of India. Finally, after years of pending hearings, a truly historic resolution arrived on November 9, 2019. A 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court delivered a unanimous verdict. Heavily relying on that ASI archaeological report we talked about, the court awarded the entire 2.77 acres of disputed land to a newly formed Ram Janmabhoomi Trust to build the temple, while the central government retained formal ownership rights. To ensure equity, the court also ordered the government to allot a prominent 5-acre plot elsewhere in Ayodhya to the Sunni Waqf Board for the construction of a mosque. Now, what's genuinely remarkable about this final decree is the aftermath. After decades of bloodshed and tension, the verdict was accepted peacefully by the public, with no ensuing violence. Section 6. 2024. The Pran Pratishta.
This brings us to our final chapter, taking this centuries-old timeline directly into the present day. Following the Supreme Court verdict, the pace of construction moved incredibly swiftly. On August 5, 2020, Prime Minister Narendra Modi traveled to Ayodhya to officially lay the foundation stone. And now, the culmination of this entire epic is set for January 22, 2024. That date was fixed for the Pran Pratishtha, the grand consecration ceremony, where the idol of Ram Lala is formally enshrined in the newly constructed Grand Temple. The guest list for the Pran Pratishtha really underscores the massive cultural and societal magnitude this event holds in modern India. Alongside Prime Minister Modi, icons from across the entire spectrum of Indian society were invited to bear witness to the end of this historic journey. We're talking actors who literally played Lord Rama on television, like Arun Govil, right up to massive film stars like Amitabh Bachchan, Akshay Kumar, Rajinikanth, and Madhuri Dixit. So, as we wrap up, we really have to ask ourselves, after spanning eras from ancient mythology right through Mughal conquest, surviving British colonialism, weathering violent post-independence clashes, and navigating a labyrinth of a legal system, how will this final peaceful constitutional resolution shape the socio-cultural fabric of India's future? It is a giant question, and it's one that history is writing the answer to right now. Thank you so much for